Welcome back to the studio, friends. It's been a couple months since I did a tutorial and I thought it was time. I've been wanting to get these watermelon lessons done for you so that you could paint a summer motif while it's still summer. This is now August 4th, so it's been a long time in coming. I know a lot of people are already heading to fall. I'm just behind. That's okay though. We will have fun painting these watermelons and I'll show you how it's all done. So let's get painting. But first, I also wanted to give you a little teaser. I've been working on this design and I think it's going to be a fun one. I think this is going to be a pattern packet and video that will be up in my shop soon. So, well, I don't know about soon. I keep saying things like that and things take my time, but that will be available for you too. So I'm going to set my camera up. Here's my little boom arm on here where I can point it down and you can learn how to paint watermelons. So here are the sample pieces, or practice pieces I have been working on, and here's the finished product of what we would like to achieve. This is just an old canvas I painted over with some white, well actually off-white and then some white. And then here's the other. I was testing colors of what I wanted as an underneath base color. So let's get painting our watermelons and we will just enjoy the process. No headaches here. So the paint colors we are going to use, it just went black. Oh, the paint colors I am going to use are pure orange, engine red, probably this is apple red. That brings a brightness to it. We will use some wicker white or titanium white if I grab that one. Sometimes I intermix them or use them interchangeably, I should say. And let's see. To bring a little darkness in areas or shadowing, I'll use the berry wine. And I should say shadowing. I would say I darken one side to give it some shading. Glazing medium, which will help me create a glaze so it's sheer. The greens I'm going to use are sap green, and I'm pretty sure that's the only green. I may bring in some Hauser green medium. We will see about that one. Black, obviously black for the seeds. This is licorice. And then the white. I think that's pretty much it. So we will draw our watermelon on here, and I basically did it freehand. I just did an arc and then squared off the top, and then this was a I don't know, what do you call that? Well, it's a triangle with a triangle bottom. I'm sure there's a name for it, trapezoid or something like that, but I've forgotten those terms long ago. So that's where we're starting. So I do have a pattern that I will make available to you, and here it is. See, it's just this pattern here, and this one I didn't make a pattern. I guess I could draw that pattern for you as well, but we'll start with this one. Now to transfer it on here, I have a whole blog post and video on transferring. I will just use some well-used graphite paper. I like the well-used because it doesn't leave a super dark line, and reds are notoriously hard to cover the black lines. So I'll just press on it with a pin, just enough to leave me some guidelines. And you notice I wasn't pressing hard and I wasn't trying to be exact. And I'm not going to be exact on this either. And what I mean is I may come outside the lines. You know, every single one is a little bit different. And so you don't want them all to be exactly alike. You want that variety. Now the brushes I'll use a variety of them, but I pretty much will stick with a number 12 flat. For the larger one, or for base coating, I'll use a 3/4 inch flat. These all come in the Donna Dewberry multi-pack, which I find they work excellent for just about everything I have painted. Now for the seeds, this is You can use the corner of a brush. They're not perfectly round. They're kind of a teardrop shape, and they're not even perfectly teardrop shaped. But for ease, I'm going to use the number 4 Royal Majestic. This is a filbert. People call them a cat's tongue, but it will just help me get that shape quickly and easily. But like I said, you could use the corner of a brush. In fact, I made demo with a corner of a brush too. And I have a palette knife that I have in a package. I have these in my Amazon store. They're relatively inexpensive for the whole pack, but I'm going to use this for mixing paint. Now there isn't an orange that I had on hand, and I like to use as few colors as possible. I like mixing. I have tons of colors, but I like mixing it up and keeping it relatively inexpensive to get started. So I try to use paint colors that are the same through each of my designs, or pretty close to it. I might add a new one here and there. And then I just mix. So that's where the pure orange is going to come in. A little bit of pure orange. And I'm going to mix it with the engine red. And this will be our base color of red. And I should have... Now my engine red is just being stinky. Okay. So there it is, got some on my finger. Now a lot of times I would base it with white so it has a very pure color underneath. And I may get out some white, and I shouldn't say I may, I will get out some white. And I'm going to paint, or I should say I'll just paint this whole thing, undercoat it with a nice fresh coat of white. This will have to dry. I have a fan on, so this may dry faster than I would have preferred, because sometimes I like to blend a little bit some of the color, because you see how the red kind of blends with the white down here. But for now, we're just going to go with this. We're not going to stress it. We can alternate how we do things for the heck of it. I didn't get enough white out. Now, if you have heavy-bodied acrylics, you can also use those. I tend to stick with the Folk Art regular acrylics and the multi-surface and the Deco Art. This is the gloss enamel, but the regular Deco Arts, because they're a little bit more pigment heavy than like Apple Barrel or those other less expensive types. Those are just more of a crafty paint, like for painting crafts, than it is for painting paintings. And I have found that, especially with the Folk Art, I haven't really tested the Deco Art, the multi-surface, which is just more of a satiny sheen than the regular acrylics. They have lasted, they're color fast forever and ever. Let me show you something while I'm yapping about it. Now, this is one of the very first, I used to paint signs, but this is all Folk Art. Isn't that the most hideous iris you've ever seen? But these are fuchsias, an iris, an open rose, a wild rose, some, well, it could be lupins or it could be hyacinths or something. But look how bright those colors are. I did this back in probably 1998, and this is 2020. So that's how long that's been there, and they're still as bright. And this is by the bright doorway, so it gets a lot of bright light and it hasn't faded. So there we have our color, our white backdrop. So I'm going to mix the engine red and the pure orange, and I want to get a very orangey red. I think I have too much of the pure orange, but you never know. Wait until you've mixed it good, because sometimes that other color will start to come through when you've mixed it well. And I'm just eyeballing this. I have just kind of a orange-red color in mind as kind of a warm red coming from beneath. And yes, that is exactly what I was wishing for. So when it first started, I thought I had too much orange, and I did not. So now these need to dry. That's pretty much dry there. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to base it with this orange red color. I'm going back to my 3/4 inch. That's pretty much dry. And I'm going to load it up. And I'm going to start away from the edge, because if you get that rim of paint, sometimes I have a tendency to put too much paint on my brush, and then you start growing outside of your lines. Now you see how that's wiggly up there? I don't mind. Sliced watermelon is not perfectly straight. So I just wanted this base red. I probably will leave some of the white down there exposed. See, here's my line, and there's where I'm leaving the red paint. That way I've got some of that white rind showing. So there's the base color. Not perfect. It's a little rough on the edge there because my dress it's drying really fast in here because that fan is on me, but it's just so hot that I have to have it for comfort. I guess I could suffer for my work. Okay, so same with this. I'm just going to fill in. See, it's too dry of an edge. I need more paint. Looks like I may not. I'll just fill in with what I have and go with it. Now I want the rind area, some of the white to show. Pull it. Oh, that was still a little bit of wet. That's why that white's getting on there. That's okay. We're not worried about it. We're just going to go with the flow. Okay, good enough. I have plenty of red in more of my brush, and we're going to let that dry. So I will be back. I'm going to take the blow dryer to it, dry it quickly, and I'll be back. So now I've put out the other reds on my palette paper here. This is the apple red, the Indian red, berry wine, and here's some white. And I'm using my number 12 flat. I've gotten it moist and dabbed the water out, excess water. I just want it moist. And that keeps the paints from drying too fast in the brush. So we are going to load up with a little bit of the three colors, the berry wine and the Indian red and the white. And then I'm just going to splish splash this on here, on this. And that's not the color I want. Now, I went over it. I took some more orange and some more Indian red, and I just painted over that little section. I don't know why it wasn't come out. Maybe I had too much white in it to the color I wanted. Some of these I did it with a little sponge, but most of them I slip slapped it on there. This one especially, just, you know, with the paintbrush. So, time to start again. I didn't clean this out. I just will get some of the red in it, and I will just slip slap some of the color on here. Maybe get a little bit of the brighter apple red. A touch of the white and just kind of blend it in. Touch of the white, and you notice how it's making it mottled, kind of like, you know, the watermelon is not all one color. I'm going to get a little bit of the berry wine and put it over on this other side. And just work it on there. Just kind of make it loose and fun. And see, now I got 2 points up there. Not what I wanted, but I fixed it. Always figuring out how to repair your errors. So I'm going to add a touch more white, and just on the corner, little touch, and just mishmash it in there so it gives it that mottled look. You know how they're kind of pithy looking, and there. And then I'm going to get a little berry wine, a little white on this one, and a little red, and I'm going to do the same over here. I want this side to be a little darker, and I got over the line. That's okay. And another way to fix that would be to come in with a clean brush. I'll use this angle brush. Clean water. See how that it's dampened, and I just will drag it along that edge, and I cleaned up my little faux pas there. And if you need to clean it again, rinse out the brush and come along. Now I have a little streak of a stain of red there. I could be fussy, clean it up some more, or I could have left it as part of the design, which a lot of times I do. When you're a little more carefree with it, then it makes life so much more fun. So I want, see how this has kind of a dividing line right down the center? Let me see if I could do it with just the engine red and a touch of the berry wine, just to give it a little, and it's not just a straight line. I have it kind of zigzaggy coming down to this point here. And that creates a visual division, but it's not just stark. It's not a stark line. Sorry, I keep getting my hand in there. I use my hands when I talk. Okay, so this one, I'm just going to start on putting that next layer in. And I got a little bit of the engine red and some white. It was too much white. So I'm going back into more engine red and covering that over. A little of the apple red. And just clean up some edges. If you have a little bumpity bump, it's okay. I just don't want it dry edge. And since I am getting a dry edge, and it's just because it's so hot, it's just everything's drying quickly. I'm going to clean it up. Clean it up a little bit. I don't mind a hazy line there. It gives it just a little bit of shadow. That's dry, so I can, but just clean it up a bit. And we're all doing good. So I'm almost out of engine red here. Just a touch of the white, just to start giving it modeling. Now, I did say that I had done some with the sponge, so I'm dipping in there. I need to get some more engine red out. Another good one is cardinal red. I find engine red and cardinal red to be quite close. So because this is a small space, I have to be careful with my sponge. I have a teeny tiny sponge. See, got it loaded with that, and then I'm going to touch into the white just a bit, and I bounce off a little bit to kind of blend that. And then this really gives it more of a mottled look, and why I had liked using it. It really gives it that texture. If you don't overwork it and the paint doesn't dry too quickly. I know one painting instructor, she used to always keep it very cool in her studio, like in the 60s. Oh, piece of sponge came off. Because it helped the acrylic paint not to dry so swiftly. But I don't have air conditioning in my studio. So it is what it is. I did turn my fan off so I wasn't getting too much airflow. So you see how that created a mottled effect? And it may be too faint. It just dried way too quickly. Let me do a little bit more. Here's another sponge. So a little engine red, maybe a little bit of the apple red. I'm pouncing it, so I'm blending those colors. And then I'll come back. Yeah, there's a little more of the modeling. Keep it variety. There, good. I'm good with that. After I tell you not to fuss with it, then I fuss with it. How do you like that? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let that dry, because I want to come in, and you see around where the seeds are at, it's darker along one area. So that makes them look like they're indented in there. So we're going to come back and we're going to put that darker color where we're going to put the seeds. But before we do that, I get ahead of myself sometimes. We are going to come in and we are going to add the white part of the rind. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the engine red. I'm going to double load. Here's the white on the brush and then a little bit of the engine red. And I'm gonna, I need more white. There, and I'm gonna go right along the edge. Just some choppy strokes of the white, and you can just avoid the engine red too if it's getting too pink, which mine is getting too pink. So I'll just bring in some of the white. It doesn't have to be a perfect width. You can mix it up. Now remember, you're going to put the green along. So you don't want it too wide and you don't want it too stark. You don't want it to be, because it's not usually a perfectly white area. And if you want to do that, if you just feel like you want that, just come in and drag a white line. Now mine's very pink because that red underneath is not completely dry. And if you've got an area that you think, I don't like that, I'm just going to wipe out my brush, come back into the engine and drag a little more engine red back in. And you see how it's blending along the edge? I want that. I want it to be uneven, blendy, etc. So here we're going to do that again. A little bit of white on there. And I'm going to bring it along this edge. Not too prissy. Not too prissy at all. That is good. Excellent. So we will let this dry. And then we will come in, and I could do the rind. I don't want to do the rind yet because it's going to drag that white into the green, and I don't necessarily want that. So I will, or maybe I do. Let's try it. Let's try it and see. We can always go over it if we don't like it. Now, I have sap green here. I've also used thicket. Both of them work well for this. So let's get some of the sap green. I think that's sap green, isn't it? Yes. Sap green on the brush. I had rinsed it out and dried it. And then we're just going to drag it on the chisel edge right on the outside of the green. Of the white. It doesn't have to be perfectly outside of it, and you see how that kind of blends together. I'm liking that. You know how the green fades into the white. The same here. We're going to come from this edge and then go up this edge. It's all good. Sorry about that. My camera overheated and stopped on me. So I'm not exactly sure what I was doing. I think I was going to kind of blend a little bit more of that white in this area. Oops, wrong side. Just to give it a little blend that green in a little bit. And while I was waiting, most of the paint dried, which it would have been wetter and then done it a little bit better. There we go. You see how that one kind of blended? A little too much. Now I'm really destroying it. Okay, another mistake that we can clean up. We'll go back in with just white and the chisel edge and just chop it down until it's just mostly white. We may have to wait till it dries. That's what happens when things time out on me. So in the meantime, we'll let that dry, and I'm going to hope that my camera doesn't overheat again. And we will go in and put the darker spots in for the seeds. Now I'm going to do that with berry wine and a touch of glazing medium and make a glaze. So here I'm dipping my number 4 Royal Majestic filbert into the glazing medium, and then I'm working it until it's just a glaze. It's not an opaque color. So then I'm just going to decide where I'm going to put the seeds. And remember, seeds are not perfectly lined up. They're not all the same direction. I don't think. I haven't really inspected a watermelon recently. But you see how it's creating a little shadow for you to add your seeds into. And I need some more. Make some more with the berry wine. It's a nice shadow color for this. When you get that glaze going. See, I've got them two lined up. You don't want that. You don't want that. So one up here, one down here, maybe one in the middle. Less is more. You can always add more later. And there's nothing to say you have to put a seed in every one of them. And sometimes odd numbers, I shouldn't say sometimes, usually odd numbers do look better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, perfect. And I got that one a little bit. I could replace this one and erase that one. No, that doesn't look right either. See, I'm getting too fussy again. Okay. We'll leave that alone. So that's darker sides, and we'll just leave that to dry, and we'll stop the camera so it doesn't overheat. Okay, so it's time to fix this guy. It feels like it's dry enough. And where's my wicker white? Let me see if I have any titanium white around here. Okay, here's a titanium white. Sometimes titanium whites seems to be a little more opaque, so I'm going to do that. I'm not sure if it is, but we will bring in some titanium white. I'm side loading the brush. Try to get it on the one corner. It's not too much. Kind of angle my brush and bring in that white over that green and fix it. Get a little bit of the red on there so it kind of blends well. There we go. Got it blending so I don't have a stark line. Perfect. Get that red on there. Red's drying from the heat. And I don't have my spray bottle here. But you see how that's kind of blending, and I'm not doing a dragging a one line. I'm just chopping in some red where I think that rind has gotten a little too thick. You can dink with this all you want and just create as you will. Rinse my brush out, kind of blend that. The brush is just damp. I rinsed it out a little bit. Dabbed it on my towel. You probably can't see me dab it on the towel. What I do is right here, so you just dab it after I've rinsed it a little bit. I'm blending that white down, pink too far down. I know I tell you not to dink and then I do it, right? It's okay. It's all part of it. It's all part of it, and we just enjoy all of it, not just the perfect result. All right. Okay, so I think our glaze, now the glaze takes a little bit to dry, so, whoops, I'm splashing. Let's see. No. Now, not that that's a big deal, and you can kind of squish them out with your finger so they're not too perfect. My neighbor coming home from work, if you heard that truck going by. I do have a window open. Okay, let's go in with some licorice black, or I also like Ceramcoat black because it's a little thinner than the licorice. I especially like it with the, and it's made by Folk Art too, also. It just moves a little bit easier. There's a time and a place for thicker and a time and a place for thinner. So what I'm going to do, you see this filbert? I'm going to make kind of a seed shape and press and do a little press turn, lift, and it'll give it that little shape. Now, we're not going to try to be perfect, and we don't want them to be huge. That was big. I don't want them big, and you can even use the side of the brush if you want to keep them smaller. So, I press, pull it towards me, or push away and lift. And so we're going to put one right here. And we'll put one right here. We'll have it pointing this way. And that one is not exactly like that one, and that's exactly what I want. I want them to be very different. And another one here, I think. All right. See, random, not perfect. Same down here. I'm going to go for random. Some are bigger than others. Some are tucked into the watermelon more, so they're not perfectly teardrop shaped. Okay. Less is more, so don't try to overdo it. I'm guilty of that. That's why I can warn you. So we will let that dry, and we will come back and I will glaze on here. We have to let the black dry completely, and then we'll glaze it so that this side is a little bit darker than this side. So let's take a break, get some iced tea, and let things dry up. Okay, so let's do our glaze. And I'm going to glaze this side with berry wine and the faux glazing medium, or the just glazing medium. And I'm just going to pull that glaze on this side. Just deepen that color a little bit, but you're not covering up anything. Whoops, that one had too much black in it. Still wasn't dry all the way. Be careful that it's dry. I thought I had touched them all. And I may do that on some of this one. Let me make sure they're all dry. Yeah, these ones are dry. So I'm going to do the same. A little bit maybe down here for one side. Glaze it a touch. So that's that side. This one looks like it needs to be glazed up to that line. Oops. What it's doing is it's lifting the paint. So be careful not to go over it again like I just did. And it starts re-wetting the paint underneath, and that's very common with black. It's something you have to be careful of when you paint signs and you're doing the lettering, and then you're going to go over it and fix the or put the, I'm trying to think of the name of it, clear coat on, so that you protect it. So there we go. It's good enough. It just provided a little extra shading on it. So now I'm going to do this side with the apple red, and I don't have any apple red out. The apple red and the glazing medium. You see how this is a brighter red? And I'm going to try to do it all in one shot so I'm not going over it a second time. Reds tend to be a bit transparent anyways. You could also go over it with an orange. And I'm going to be very careful and brighten it and try not to hit those seeds since I know they've been re-wetted. And that will brighten that side, and it shadows this side and brightens this side. Now if you want to, because I've messed up that green, I should say, just kind of got too much white on it. Now you could do a lighter green too, just to kind of give it some variation. And come in there with the 2 greens and bring in your rind again. We're not perfect. We're just getting it on there. So that works. Same with down below. And I'm super messy. See that? Super messy, but we're all good. Rinsed out my brush and I will drag that up. Now that's blending. Got a little bit of the red in there. If you want a little more white, touch, touch. Make it painterly, as one of my instructors says. Fine, that's all good. Now on this one I added a little bit of shadowing underneath just to kind of give it a little panache there. Let me see, where's that glazing medium at? Got it all messed up now. But you see how it's very faint, and I'll just bring in a hint of color. This is totally optional. Underneath, blend it out with your finger, kind of fades it into the surface, just for the fun of it. And there, my friends, is most of your watermelon. Now we will come in with a liner brush. You could also do this with the corner of your number 12, but I like to try to get precise, and this is a liner brush. There's also other detail brushes you could probably find, but this is, let's see, this is what comes in the Donna Dewberry package. So if you don't have any other detail brushes, this will work just fine. And just get a hint of white, add a touch to your watermelon seeds, give them a little highlight, a little spark. Same with up here. I'm trying not to get my arm in it. That was a little too much on that one, but it's all going to work good. Just being random, a little spark of white. And there you have it. You have your watermelon. And that one is just too driving me bats. Pick it up. There you go. Then you step back, look at it, and see where you think you might need to add some little shadows underneath it with a little touch. It's drying out. Set them in there. Set them back. And it's all good. So that, my friends, is how you paint a fun little watermelon. It's not too cartoony, but it's not realistic either. Just kind of an impression of a watermelon. And when you add it to your other fruit paintings, I have a fruit box, or a box that I've painted several fruits on, and I'm working on the pattern packet for. It really comes together. So I will see you in the next painting video.